our seminar, Tuesday lectures, with Dr. Odetta Pizzingrilli. Dr. Odetta Pizzingrilli obtained her PhD from University of Rome, Sapienza, and she is now a postdoctoral researcher at the Department of Civilization and Forms of Knowledge at the University of Pisa. She was previously a senior researcher at the Center for Strategic Studies at the University of Jordan and the Renaissance Strategic Center. She published recently her PhD research under the title of Identity Building in Jordan and Kuwait. So her main research interests include minorities in the Arab region, identity narratives and counter-narratives, especially in Jordan and Kuwait. I'm really happy to give you the floor. Thank you very much for coming to Kuwait and to the CFRPA, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Makram. Thanks to the CFRPA for the space and this beautiful, amazing chance that I have to talk about my book, which focuses on Jordan and Kuwait, in Kuwait. This is very challenging for me. I'm very anxious. I'm very happy and excited because being an historian and anthropologist and studying this region, it is this now, the space we are in is the space that I care the most when talking about what I do. And inshallah, I hope that what I say will make sense. And forgive me if not. And I'm very happy to have a discussion if you have any question. And as I said the few times that I presented this book before, the idea of this book in my mind is that it keeps getting written during this presentation, during these talks. We add chapters to it because I focus on the discursively constructed narrative of identity. So what we do by discuss is that we add a layer of identity that I bring home with me, and it keeps giving me inputs and thoughts. So, as Dr. Makram said, I am an Italian researcher. I'm now a postdoc at the University of Pisa, but I lived in the region many years. I just went back to Italy from Jordan, where I lived for almost 4 years, working at the University of Jordan and to the Renaissance Strategic Studies, that it's a research center within a local Jordanian NGO. This is my fourth time in Kuwait, and I lived here for a year in 2012. And I'm telling you this because I read a quote from a scholar long back that said that I learned to understand the society not through goal-oriented participant observation, but through spontaneous participant living. And this is what is in my goal. I started by living, and then I studied. So I have random understanding, then I try to put in order. And what I try to write down, it's my understanding of what people were generous enough to tell me. So I reworked through the skills I have, scientific skills I built in my academic career, and work on the words, on the social interaction that is the interview. So this book is based on about 100 interviews that I conducted during the PhD and after, semi-structured interview and non-structured interview that lasted up to 5-6 hours, and that I conducted in Arabic and in English, in Jordan and in Kuwait, in person and sometimes online. So this is the core of the book. This I don't even like to call it fieldwork, because again it's a social interaction. These are the people that became part of my understanding, of my living, I really like this sentence, participant living of the region. So the idea, so I thought I spoke until now a lot about me, but this is because this book, it's about me and the people I spoke with. I cannot take off my identity from the book and the people identity. So I'm very well aware that I am in the book because I am the one who listened. And yeah, so this is a big part of it. If you ever read it, I can send you the PDF. You will meet me and my and the people I talk with. From what I will try to talk about today, I will explain you how the book is structured, why I picked Jordan and Kuwait, and what are the similarities between these two countries, and why a comparison feel fit. What groups of the society I focus on and why. How these groups help my understanding of the identity building process and the exclusion and inclusion strategy within these two societies. So the end goal is anthropological. I don't go politics. Politics comes out of the people discourses, but it's not my focus. I want to understand the self-representation of the people, how they narrate themselves, and how dynamics from above put them in that character, and if they have counter-narrative to oppose to that character. Methodology, I already told you some, the main. Of course, we can discuss more as always, but mainly it's interviews. I have some excerpt of the interviews that I would like to read, because this is what it's all about. And conclusion. But this is the research question. How do spatial dynamics and narrated identity shape each other? So my main concepts are space and narrated identity. So these are the two concepts I tackle together. So identities, how they change within the space. And then we have to understand the difference between place and space. When I am in class with my students in Italy, it's easier because I say, we are now in the classroom, this is the place. The classroom, the walls, the seats, this is the place. But we are the space. We are the class, the space of the class. If we go to another room, we will still be the class of history in that case. So how do the narrated identity articulate themselves within the space? And how the ongoing process of inclusion and exclusion, so I'm focusing on the ins and the outs, which result from the articulation of ever-changing spatial identities, because it's from working on the identity, on the space, and creating an outside that in turn I create a new identity narrative. So how all of these construct individual and group self-perception within the Jordanian and Kuwaiti society, in my case countries. The sense of belonging that I try to study, address in the book, the intima بالوطن not only I'm not focusing only on the citizenship, of course, I'm focusing on the belonging to the territory, to whatever I feel to be the space that includes me. So my idea, my understanding of belonging articulates spatially from a space perspective. It is the space inside and outside the Kuwaiti walls. Now we will go back to this in a second, because the 1920 wall that has been built in Kuwait after the Ikhwan war meant in turn the construction of this inside and outside situation. So you have مناطق داخلية خارجية, you have أهل السور, the people of the wall. This is these are toponym. يعني I look at them as kind of a poem. That's why in the book I divided the history, calling like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, like in a theater play. Because I'm not looking at it from a political science angle, I'm looking at it as a story. So I'm doing the story of history. I'm looking at the tales of history. And it works. For the story of Kuwait and of Jordan, it works very well. I feel that the vocabulary, the poetic vocabulary, it's more online than the political science called data-based one. But this is one of the place of belonging, the space of Arabhood or the lack of thereof. So after I want to say the Black September or the Gulf War, you have a decrease of the sense of Arabhood and Uruba. It's for obvious reasons. So I lose this space of belonging for a while, forever, in my memory when I talk about it, but I do. So, and then maybe I gain it back in following the geopolitical events. I can gain it back. So, the presence of Arabhood or the lack of Arabhood, it's another space that I enter and exit because it's fluid. It doesn't stay as it is forever. The space of memories of a never seen place for the Gaza to Jordan. This is it is a very, I want to say, moving space, because I had the chance to speak with Gazawi in Jordan in the camps, and the narrative that has been constructed in their case is that they are guests. They are not, they don't have a legal status, at least they don't represent themselves as refugees. Not only because Jordan didn't sign a Geneva Convention, so they aren't, but because it is both a narrative from above and from below, because they don't want to be labeled as a refugee, because they are ideally forever going back. So they live in this space of permanent temporariness, waiting to go back. So their arrival in Jordan is never ending. I spoke with women older than me, telling me, I arrived in Jordan when I was 40 days old, which doesn't make sense. I don't think we would never say this. But for her, the moment of arrival is the resilience and resistance and the idea that I arrived, so there is a place to go back to. And also they are considered guests, because the guest at some point needs to go home. We don't want them to stay forever. And they say that are guests of the fatherly king that nicely let us stay in his house. And then there is the non-space of the stateless Kuwaiti that are different from the Ghazawi, because Ghazawi legally can be defined stateless. They have no ID, but they have this place to go back to. It is very clear to them where they come from and where they want to go in this condition of permanent temporariness they live in. Bedouin of Kuwait are indigenous to the land, so they don't have another place to go back to in the narrative, in the self-representation. So they are similar, and these are two of my clusters, but they are very, very different in the way, in how they present themselves. So all of this articulation of spatial articulation of the intima create the identity of those who do not belong, those who do not want to belong, are narratively, discursively constructed as not belonging to the place they want to belong, or else. The fascinating aspect for me is that generally the identity of those who do not belong is perceived to be outside. Those who do not belong are outside the nation-state borders. They are the outsider, they do not belong. They are in the outs, not in the ins. In my case countries, they are within the state's perimeters. And yet, discursively, they are constructed as outsiders. So, from this point, I ask, how do you construct your alternative order discursively? How do you narrate yourself? You create a narration, a narrative for yourself. How? By being someone who does not belong within. Another part that I take into consideration is the environment. That is another actor in the discursive interaction that shapes identity, and that is often neglected as an actor. But we, the people, live in a space and a place, and the environment is part of our, it is one of the character of our tale. And it is very interesting. For example, I'm thinking, it is true for Kuwait, but now I'm thinking about Jordan, because in Jordan until the 60s we had, I say we, see, I feel that I belong, because nobody comes from Amman, so everybody is from Amman. If you ask someone in Jordan that lives in Amman, I'm not talking about citizenship in Marra zero, because there are there are so many groups. So nobody's from Amman. So I can be from Amman as well. The belonging to the city, it's so blurred that welcome even me. So I am now in the we space. So we in Amman until the 60s, 70s, we had a stream, a river that crossed the city, and then it was covered. So I spoke with some of my interviewees. One of them specifically told me the story of his father that learned how to swim in the stream, and swimming from this wadi to the other, from a place that for me it's crazy to think about it as a river. And when I discovered I didn't know about the stream, about this river, and then I asked about it to people my age or younger. They didn't know. They didn't know that there was a river in the city where they live since forever, until few years ago. And it shocked me, because this is another space. The city that these people I spoke with lived is another city than the one where the father of the guy I spoke with learned how to swim. So if memory is a fundamental component of identity narratives, how can one maintain one's identity while the world around him is constantly changing? How can I keep the feeling of belonging? Because the feeling of belonging is not only legally guaranteed, it's also an inner sense. So if I don't recognize anything, if the city that it's in my mind doesn't, is not anymore as the city I'm walking, and Amman is changing so rapidly. Like, I went back 3-4 years ago after another 4 years, and I was like, what happened here? Another character is the environment and the architecture, the urbanistic aspect of the city. Again, in Jordan, you have some neighborhood where some segment of the society are not allowed. Not that it's legally, they are not blocked, but they don't fit. They will never let in from the guard, from the valet, it's not the place for them. So gradually the city excludes you. She becomes another character of the story, and she excludes someone and includes someone else. So I can go as a foreigner, as a European, as wealthier somehow. I can have access to everywhere. Other people that live there since before I was born, no. So how do you react to this? After all this thinking about what does it mean to how do I define myself, how do the space affect my narration of identity, I started to talk about to write, to focus on the history of the two countries. But this again is not the history, it's a story. So I take, of course there are the years, there are the names of the battle, of the turning point in history that makes sense, but I look at it as a story. And my story follows the identity narratives, how they change from the foundation of the nation states. So after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, and before Sykes-Picot, before the nation became the nation state that we perceive to be a political actor. But what was before that? I start with the Vilayet law of 1864, part of the Tanzimat reforms, to see what was Jordan before becoming the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. How was considered from the Jordanian to be? How did they perceive this entity, territorial entity? And what happened? مثلا, we know the story, the Hussein-McMahon agreement that then the British didn't follow up with, and then they didn't allow Hussein to have his Arab kingdom. Now this, to say it like this, it's funny, it's silly, but this is the story, this is the tale. And they didn't allow, and then they gave his sons Jordan and Iraq, because Abdullah the First got the Emirate of Transjordan, and Faisal that went to Syria, and Syria was already taken by the French, so we had to move it from Syria and give him Iraq. And then so you have Transjordan, Jordan, and Iraq bordering each other, led by two brothers for a while. So you have also this space that connects Iraq and Jordan for a lot of time. When Faisal died, passed away, they had funerals in Amman as well, for example. So I look at these tales, thinking, looking at, imagining the identity going from big to small. So clearly in Jordan you have Pan-Arab, we are not in the Pan-Arab era, but we have Hussein wanted, the father of Abdullah wanted an Arab kingdom. So his the understanding of the family at first was not the nation state of Jordan borders and the sovereign nation state of Jordan. So you go from Arab identity that now shrinks with the 67 war, the Black September that we mentioned, the disengagement from the West Bank in 88. So we go to Jordan first. Jordan first is not my title, it's the governmental campaign that called, and when I arrived 3.5 years ago, I arrived in Jordan to start studying and writing a book. And there was, when I arrived, the king created a committee to discuss the identity, the national identity. Again, this was 3 years ago. Again, he felt the need to give another label. So it was الهوية الأردنية الجامعة, the universal Jordanian identity. But universal means Jordanian, like we are all Jordanian, Jordan first, we are all Jordanian. We are labeling, and there were a lot of critics to this for many reasons. But you follow in Kuwait, it is also similar, but in Kuwait I am more on the literal poetical side, because it is movement. So the space in Kuwait articulates in movements. In Jordan as well, but in Kuwait I follow the movements of people until the creation of the little fort, the Kuwait. And I had the chance last time I was in Kuwait to attend the course, History of Kuwait course in the University of Kuwait. And it was amazing because our street was beautiful. It was women class, female, black, the teacher in the center with the white dasha, beautiful image. So this is the first, the start of the movie. And then he went for 3 hours talking about history of Kuwait. After 3 hours, we didn't reach 19th century Bilmarra, or 18th century, maybe before. Because what he was doing, he was following the movement of the people in the desert of the clan Otto, that in Arabic comes from Ataba. He explained, I look for it, that means to move from a place to another. The very root of the name of the Otto means this. And there was a big map, kharita, bigger than this. Of course, it was a huge classroom with dot lines following the movement of the Otto. And this is what we did for 3 hours. I was amazed. We are moving in the desert and stopping and then moving again and then stopping. And he was giving details, why and who, and names, a lot of names. So it's a personal story. Like I felt I'm talking about someone family. And then of course the Dahra battle that lead to this the third wall of Kuwait that created in turn this in and out. So this until the First Gulf War, it is a turning point for the formation of Kuwaiti identity, because now here we feel that we are part, we belong. Now there is the start of the feeling of belonging. And then of course discovery of oil and independence, mainly discovery of oil, change everything because transformed Kuwait into a rentier state and in turn transformed the relation between the inhabitants and citizens to the state. So this part, this chapter, this act of the play, I called it "Who is not Kuwaiti?" because it's from understanding who is not, I understand who is. So now it starts to be clearer who is not, who I decide to exclude. And at the same time, it's happening in Jordan as well. I do the disengagement of the West Bank. The disengagement of the West Bank means that not only I renounce to a piece of territory, but I remove the memory, the role of the Palestinians from my founding history. So this is how I decide that I am Jordanian, and then there are Jordanian Palestinian. And this is a divide that's still there, and now it's even harsher after Gaza. And then of course the Iraqi invasion opened another point of discussion, of debate for the meaning of Kuwaitiness, like Jordanianness. So this is what we are following. And when you read history, I don't want to say study because this is the tale, when you read history as a tale, you follow, and it becomes very clear how this Kuwaitiness and Jordanianness shape themselves, especially move, and if we then look at a moment in time, but we already know that they will change again and again and again, because it's Alf Layla wa Layla. It never stops. Now it's the what we can set is the frame story. You know, like the first story when Sherhazad started to talk, and you have why she has to save herself by telling stories, and then we go with the stories, and we never stop. Otherwise, she does. It's late. But I want to tell you why Jordan and Kuwait. Jordan and Kuwait, they have a lot of things in common, and I'm sure that you know better than me, or you know anyway, because you know that there are a lot of connections between the two countries. And me, again, by participant living, not because I wanted to, but when I moved from Syria to Jordan, I felt they were very different, very different. Yes, Mashraq countries, very, very different. Jordan and Kuwait, of course, they are very different, but I feel there are less differences. If I want to put together Jordan and Kuwait, it's easier. Hatta the life, social behaviors, they are closer than Syria and Jordan. This is my experience. So anyway, they are both monarchies. They are small states surrounded by major regional powers. So they developed survival strategies, and they managed to maintain political stability through a lot of things. They both have a British colonial legacy, and this is interesting. Of course, we know Kuwait is a rentier state, but Jordan can be classified as a second order rentier state or semi-rentier state because of the aid that received from the international community, Europe, the Gulf, and before until the 70, from the 70 to the 90s, the remittances of the high-skilled workers that from Jordan came mainly to Kuwait. And then there is the Palestinian component that links the two countries, and even in a spontaneous focus group that I witnessed during the fieldwork. Again, I don't like to say fieldwork. Everybody told me we have in common the Palestinian component and the migration flows. The fact that both countries are built on migration movements. So this is a fact, this is an identity element that really makes the two countries alike, because they are built on movement. They are the guest and the host are in a circular relationship, and as for Palestinians, you have all the Palestinians that went back to Jordan after the first Gulf War because of their alignment with Iraq at that time. And before you have the highly qualified Jordanian workers that in the 70s migrated to the GCC. These are the clusters. So I already told you about Bidun and Ghazawi, and that are the example for exclusion. And then you have tactical inclusion. In tactical inclusion, I put the Circassians that in Jordan are a privileged minority. They have, so their identity is preserved. They can keep it, and they can feel and present themselves as Circassian Jordanian, but they are still excluded somehow. So they are included in a tactical way. And Arab expats in Kuwait are an economic necessity. The state needs them, so includes them, but they can be a threat because they are a lot. So these two groups are to be discussed together. And now I want to leave you a little space if you have any questions, but I want to read some of these interviews that I extracted this excerpt from 80 semi-structured interviews that I conducted this during the PhD, so 2016-17, through the keyword analysis focused on the word place. So I just put place and I saw what came. And take into consideration that my PhD wasn't about this. The PhD was about legitimacy, was about on which identity criteria the legitimacy of the Arab states is based. It was much more political science. I like it less. But حتى لو it was not my focus بالمرة. When I went back to this corpus of interviews and I tried to look for the word the place, I was amazed. I was like, oh my God, if I had to write it myself and cheat, I couldn't. The place of the Jordan River has changed in our collective memories as this Palestinian Jordanian. Now it's more a burden than a river. My wife, another Palestinian Jordanian, always says that this is not our place and we should go back to Palestine, but I don't know where back is anymore. So this is the permanent temporariness of the wife, and he is struggling with it. I don't know where it's back anymore. I feel out of place, Palestinian born in Kuwait, but he is Palestinian because Palestine is a space. Mahmoud Darwish, in his early poems, talked a lot about territory, and then with time, because of his personal experience and because of what was happening, he moved to space. And he started to, in his poems, to construct narratively another space of belonging where people can go to with memory, with thoughts. Even in Jordan, even when those that have citizenship, they're like first Palestinian, then Jordanian. So this guy says, I feel out of place everywhere I go. Here in Jordan, I am the Palestinian. In Kuwait, I'm a foreigner. In Palestine, I'm the one from Kuwait. So he lost his space. The Gazan girl, they told us this place was temporary, but it's been our home for years now. This is just to underline the concept of permanent temporariness. Sudanese born in Kuwait, finding my place in this society is challenging. I'm too Sudanese for Kuwait, too Kuwaiti for Sudan. So we talk a lot with Walid, I remember. And he was like, I don't know where I feel myself. And a lot of people told me about this watery identity, like this identity that takes the shape of the box you are in. So you change your dialect, you change your attitude, you change the way you sit and talk and the volume of your voice, and you change. At some point you feel that you don't know who you are anymore. As a Christian in the Middle East, finding your place is an ongoing journey of negotiation and assertion. The church is a central place for our community. It is more than a building. It's where our identity is affirmed. So the place of the church is space where his identity articulates itself spatially. Jordan is a place that has been shaped by its guests as much as its hosts. This is very strong. It's late. I don't want to. I leave you with two pictures. This is in Kuwait at the Queen Library. Aida the bird is not there anymore. They told me yesterday I went back and they told me she ran away. هربت العصفورة. Okay, so she freed herself. So now there is a male bird that I don't know the name, but she was for me, she is a part of the book, and this is Amman sunset in 2024, last year, and it gives me this idea of all these voices, places, and faces that are together in this space that is Amman, and Amman let all these voices to be said. It welcomes, she welcomes I want to make it a girl, to make her a girl, because in the city, she welcomes the sadness. So this is the level of care that I felt, that you can be sad in Amman in a welcoming way. وبس. Thank you so much.
Thank you.